Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special International Women's Day episode and our kickoff series for our webinars organized by Women in Tech Dorset. I am extremely excited to welcome Sana Remekie, who is a personal inspiration. I'm super excited that she could find the time and join us for this incredible webinar. I met Sana in one of the conferences of Mark Alliance, and I was in awe of all of her talents and her achievements. She is a force to reckon with. She has got insights, and she's a true inspirational leader for all of us who are in tech and wanting to make a difference. So here is Sana telling us her story, and I'm super excited, as you could probably see, in welcoming her. So Sana, all yours.
Thank you so much, Seaman. And before I introduce myself and go any further and tell my story, I just want to say thank you so much to Seaman for thinking of me when it comes to, kicking off a very special webinar series that Seaman and Sharon had started. I didn't see myself in that light, but she did, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much for that. I also want to just say that, there's a lot of people that talk about elevating women, and in the moment we all make promises and we get all passionate about this idea of, women in tech and how we're going to make this all work for us. But Seaman actually went ahead and did it, right? So she put her money where her mouth is. She actually took that passion and she's actually doing something about it. So I just want to say thank you, and I really, really appreciate you doing this, Seaman. So with that, I'll make a quick introduction of who I am. So Sana Remekie, I'm the CEO of Conscia, a startup out of Toronto, Canada. We're basically in our 6th year of this journey right now. Seaman met me at the Women in Mock event. Actually, prior to that, at the mock event itself, when I was rushing from the airport to get to the conference, she was the first person I saw, and she was very welcoming. So I sat down with her with my luggage in my hand, and it was fun. But anyway, so I'm also an ambassador of the Mock Alliance, which is essentially an organization that tells companies how they should build their software the right way. So what I'll do is, instead of talking about, how we can at an organization level improve the status of women in tech, what I really want to get down to is what are some of the things that stop us from making that first move towards technology. What is it inside of all of us at a very human level that makes things difficult for us? So for that, I will start with, telling a little bit of a story about myself. So this is on the left, my family. This is when I was about, I think, 12 years old. It's this person on the right hand side of the picture. That's my sister, my mom, my dad, and my 2 brothers. So we came to Canada, surprisingly enough, not because of my dad, but actually because of my mom. Right. So my mom was a pharmacist back in Pakistan. That's where I was born and raised. And when I was about 14 years old, my family applied to come to Canada on the basis of my mom being a pharmacist. That was the right way at the time to apply, and so we came. This is who my mom is today, and these are my 2 daughters on the right hand side. So you can see why why the women in tech cause is so important to me. I have a lot of hope for my 2 daughters that are sitting with my mom on the right hand side. So where it all started was, we came to Canada. My mom essentially brought us here. About 5 years into our journey in Canada, my dad actually passed away. And so we were, four brothers and sisters, about all less than 20 years of age. And my mom was all alone, having to take care of us and to raise the family. So she essentially was my inspiration. She was the one who took us from very little age to where we are today. We're now all educated, all have all done a university degree, and are all successful in our careers because of my mom. Right? She wasn't a woman in tech, but she was a woman who believed that women should be empowered to do whatever they feel they can do. And she always she led by example. Right? And now, I have my two daughters, and I have that same responsibility um, on my shoulders to prove to them that we can do this. Right? It's not always men that make it to that level. Women can do it as well, and they should. So it all, at the end of the day, it starts at home. It starts with what you see growing up. I saw my mom being that example for our family, and I want to be that example for mine. So, one of the things that I see in Canada and in the West is that there is this tendency to feel or to sensationalize the struggles of people that come from other countries, and they want to just talk about you, or sort of limit you to your struggles, um, what you have seen, and what was the thing that brought you down. They want to talk about, you're an immigrant, so there must be lots and lots of struggles on the way for you to get educated in technology and for you to become a tech founder eventually. So in fact, I was telling the story the other day where, I was talking to someone who wanted to interview me for this women in tech series, actually another women in tech series. And then I told them about my story, and I said, I've been very well supported all the way through, to find myself in this place today. My mom was there, my family was there supporting me all the way through, and I actually didn't feel a lot of struggle. I think my mom felt a lot of struggle because she didn't know the language coming in. She wasn't comfortable with the culture, but I was pretty much brought up and raised in this culture. So I didn't feel that much of a struggle, at least to get to where I am today, right? And they didn't like that answer. They didn't want to put me on the Women in Tech series because that story wasn't inspiring enough. It wasn't full of struggles. If it wasn't sensational, right? And so it's that I think that sometimes we hold people back because we have an expectation from them, especially from women, that they have to always tell a story about a struggle, and it can't be just about the success that they have seen on their path towards wherever they are today. Um, but sometimes that sensationalism actually goes a little bit further and uh, is even embedded within your own family, right? So I'll give you another story here. There was I think this was about a few months ago when I was supposed to travel for work. And, as I said, I have my two daughters. I was talking to my mom about how I have to leave them with my husband, and, we're going to make sure that they're okay. We'll be meticulous about making sure that their schedule stays the same and their routine stays the same. And I'm going to make sure that I prepare before I leave everything that they need, right? And so my mom just looks at me and said, "Why are you doing this? You just stop, right? Stay at home, take care of your kids. Why do you need to do these two jobs?" And I'm like, "What? You're you're telling me this?" Um, I mean, all my life I've seen you as my role model, and you've been the one who has inspired me to be who I am today, and you're telling me to stop. And why is that? And so she explained to me, and thankfully the answer was what it wasn't too depressing. Was that I struggled all my life without your dad to get to where we are today, right? I just don't want you to go through all the same struggles that I went through. I want you to enjoy your life a little bit. I want you to, just take it easy on yourself because I don't want you to go through what I went through, right? And then when I explained to her that, I'm not actually going through what you went through, you were alone. I actually have support at home. She felt a lot better and she said, okay, fine, you can keep going, keep doing what you're doing. Let me know how I can support you. She wasn't fully happy still and fully convinced that I'm okay. But her point was that women end up, when they're working, they're doing two jobs. They're not just doing the outside work. They're having to do the work to still be a mom, still be a wife, and then on top of that, you also have to be the CEO and the co-founder and all of that, and that's just too difficult. And I think that that is the case in most situations, in most households where a woman is working outside of the home. She's still fully 100% responsible for the children and for everything that needs to happen at home as well. So you absolutely need the support from your partner to be able to survive, especially when you have a full-time job, or if you have a career that is very demanding. It requires travel and to be fully there. So the question really everybody asks is, when you seem to have it all, is that true? Right? I mean, on the left, you see my professional pictures, and you see what you see on LinkedIn, where Sana is speaking at um, this event and that event, and traveling all over the place. And on the right, my family sees this side of me where I am like spending the time with my kids and taking them out and doing all the stuff that moms and daughters and wives should be doing. So, is this the true picture of my life? Really? This is pictures. This is like a Facebook version of Sana Remekie. This is not. This is not going to show you, all of the tears that I have had when I had to leave my kids to go out for work. When my kids are like, "Can you join me for this trip that I have?" And all the other moms are volunteering. Why can't you volunteer for me? Or come in the morning. There's, all the moms are getting together, and all the kids are going to be playing. And can you show up? Right? You can only be at one place at one time. And I realized that as I was going through this journey of being a mom and an entrepreneur at the same time, that you have to stop expecting to be perfect, because you're not going to be perfect, and it's okay to not be perfect, right? And the one thing that made me feel better is knowing that whatever I do, I am actually setting that as an example for my daughters. So if I act like I need to be perfect all the time and I need to have it all together all the time, that's what I'm teaching my kids. Is that the guilt that I want on my daughters as they grow up? If I'm teaching them that, that's what's going to happen. So I try to at least act like it's okay. Everything is okay, because that's what that's a side I want my daughters to see, and that's what I want them to internalize as they grow up. And I don't want them to blame themselves when they're not quote unquote perfect, right? Because nobody should be and can be perfect, right? So I hope that that's a message, I guess, I want to get out there, is to stop beating yourself up all the time for not having everything done right. You have to make certain choices. You have to find the balance in your life, and you have to also make yourself happy. It's not just about your kids. It's not just about your family. It's about you as well. And that's the example that you're setting with your children and your family if you go too far the other way. Um, so, having said all of this, um, I may look confident the way you're looking at me right now. If I look like I've put it all together and I am showing up and I am presenting in front of you. What I'm not telling you is yesterday and day before, I didn't really have a great night's sleep because I was worried that I'm going to mess up during this meeting, this event. Something's going to go wrong. I'm going to say something the wrong way. Something's going to be left out of my story. I'm feeling like if I say something, they're going to figure out that I really shouldn't be here. Why am I here? You don't even have a great story. You're not all that successful, right? Why are you here? We all feel this way. Every woman that I have spoken to in my journey feels this way, that I don't belong here. I'm not good enough, and somebody else is better than me. And I just want to say that you're not the only one feeling this way, which means that we're all together in this, right? And we have to support each other and we have to validate each other when we feel this way. And to tell you the truth, it's actually not just women who feel this way. Many men feel this way as well, right? It's just that you just have to keep showing up and you keep trying your best. And one day that feeling will shake off. But it won't be fully gone. It will just get better, right? Um, and part of that, to try to get to that spot where you feel like you're included and you feel that you have a seat at the table, is to go grab that seat at the table. And this is, you can see this table full of men, all one profile, and I'm right there looking pretty shocked, looking like, oh, I'm here. I actually made it. And somebody's taking a picture of this one big table of all men, and I am part of that table. They couldn't hear a thing I was saying because my voice was so soft the entire time and the room was so loud. But at least they saw me as part of the table, right? And this is what the table looks like for most women in tech right now. This is not just me. I've seen multiple pictures of, on LinkedIn, if you just look at events and conferences, and you see a bunch of folks, they strategically place the women in the middle of the picture to show that, look, we do have some women, but it's not a lot of them, right? It's one or two out of 20 around you. So this is very normal, and what we want to do is to change that table. We need to have a better representation of women. So this group of men, the one here on the left, Yanis, is the one who was organizing this event. And after this event, I went up to him and I said, we have a real problem. You guys have one woman on that table. We need to change that. And he looked at me for shock that I just called out the elephant in the room, but then thanked me after and said, you know what, you're right. Can you do me a favor and introduce me to more women like you in the tech field who we can bring to the table next time? And I took that upon myself and I started to bring multiple women since then. So this picture now looks very different. I wish I actually had a picture of all of the women in the recent event that we went to in Florida. Things are changing, right? And in order to make that change, you have to make the first moves. You have to do this. You have to put your hand up, and you got to take the lead. Even when you feel that imposter syndrome, even when you feel that I am not good enough, right? Or should I even be here? Just get in the habit of putting your hand up and think about the consequences later, right? So that's what, that's what I've been doing is in the last year, actually, especially I would say, where I've had the chance to grow quite a bit as a quote unquote quasi public figure, um, it's because not because I'm confident that I can do it. It's just because I've just gotten into this habit of just saying yes, and then I regret it a lot of times later. but but I do it. I just say, all right, let's just say yes, and then we'll see what happens after. And I've seen my own confidence just improve over time by just practicing, right? So now that I've done so many of these, it doesn't scare me as much anymore. Before, like I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks in a row. Now it's come down to 1 to 2 days, and so I think that's progress. It's pretty good, I would say. And hopefully I'll get to a point where I'll only be nervous for maybe the last 2 or 3 hours um, prior to an event like that, right? So anything is progress. It's not going to be perfect all of a sudden, but it will get there. And again, the change starts at home. Your home environment is what dictates what's going to happen next. What's the next generation gonna look like, right? And these are my daughters and my husband, um, who love my husband, and my husband spends a lot of time with them, independently without always having me around. He's the one, taking them out to their activities, and that's the Father's Day picture here with all three of them. Um, and my husband, they're daddy's girls, and that's great. They have a good role model right at home. But they know that when they get married or have someone in their life later, they're going to expect from him or her um, what he's like, right? They're not going to be okay with someone just not being there for them, right? And that's what's important. You have to show your kids, your girls especially, that the expectation is for them to succeed in life and to be supported by their partner. That's the only way it can happen, is with support from their father, from whoever your partner is, in being successful. And yes, and as I said before, change is not going to happen overnight. It takes time. It took me a long, long time to get to a point where I'm able to speak to you like this and joke around while I'm speaking. You should have seen me like 10 years ago. It was not like this at all. I was so scared. I was literally reading off the script as I was speaking, because I was too afraid to just come out and say what is on my mind. Before it had to be perfect, it had to be flawless, right? And now I just don't care about being perfect, and it's so much easier, right? You let that burden off your shoulders when you just let go of the idea of perfection. Okay. And also, this I think is extremely, extremely important. This is my best friend, who, by the way, my first speech about, I think it was 3 years ago, and I was like a completely like nervous wreck, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this speech, and it was in front of 600 people in Toronto, on a stage, and I said, Rimpy, I call her Rimpy. Her professional name is Sue, but I still call her Rimpy. I said, Rimpy, can you just show up maybe to my speech? Maybe you can just hold my hand all the way to the uh, to the top when I'm speaking to the stage. And she, without even flinching, she said, "Okay, I'm going to be there." And she lives in New York, by the way. She flew over just for 2 nights, just so that she could be there for me for my speech. And so she's been the one person in my life. I've known her since I was 14, since I came, the first day actually that I came to Canada. She was the first person who shared her locker room with me, and to this day is my best friend. Um, you know, 27 years later. And she's been through everything with me. Anytime I feel that I haven't done so well, I give her a call and I would say, okay, I really messed up today. I don't know why I did this, and she'd always calm me down, sit me down and say, you know what, you're more than this one event. You can't just judge yourself based on one thing that happened. You've done, accomplished so much in life. So don't reduce yourself to this one thing, right? And so you need someone like that in your life who will support you and truly celebrate your successes. You have to know that this person is not just saying that, oh, I feel so nice, I'm so good for you, and be fake. There's lots of fake people out there who'll just look at you and tell you that they are happy for you, but they're not happy for you. They're not happy for you. You need people who are truly happy for you and actually feel good inside when they hear you say something good about yourself. And so she's that person for me. And I'm so lucky, so blessed to have that. And I don't think that I could have come this far without her. Um, so, yes, onward and upward. There's lots of trials and tribulations that we all go through as women, right? What I would leave you with is the fact that I think that it takes, um, there's this quote from George Orwell from 1984, the novel, um, that until they rebel, they will never become conscious. And until they become conscious, they will never rebel. And I feel that women have now rebelled. And now they're realizing, they're becoming conscious about all the trials and tribulations of that rebellion that we've created. We've now made a choice to move towards a state where we're going to be equal one day, and that road is not going to be easy, right? It's going to be difficult, it's going to be full of challenges, but we've now made that choice. We have rebelled, and it's time to go and get what is truly ours, right? We have to accept what is on the way to this road. Okay, and that's really all for me. I hope you took something out of what I said today. I know I'm not giving you, stats about what percentage of women are getting funding and how many women get less pay than their male counterparts and all that. I'm just giving you a little story about myself, and how I got to where I am today. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, Sana. It's been absolutely wonderful hearing talk. I have a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind. I'm just going
Yeah.
to take some time. I wanted to your thoughts on people or women who are just in the beginning of their careers and they're just starting off. What would be your advice for them in terms of the way they are and some of the approaches they might be able to take along that road?
Yeah, so I think that there now, because we have rebelled, as I said, there are lots of women mentors that are now available out there and actually very willing to help. LinkedIn is a very good place to get to know people and to network and to really understand how the game is played, right? You really have to know what is going on in the corporate world, and the best way to do that is through networking, through conferences like this that Seaman that you've put together, but also just learning from other women within the industry, and talking to them and reaching out for that mentorship and for that advice.
Wonderful. We also have a part of our community where people might be thinking that in order to make it in tech, you need to learn to write code, and that's the only thing that you can do in a tech career. So, coming from your amazing experience, I was wondering whether you'll be able to elaborate on what kind of things people might be able to do, and what does the tech world really look like?
Yeah, so I think that all organizations are tech organizations at this point. Every role that is within any organization requires you to be tech savvy to some degree. Doesn't Tech actually doesn't mean coding anymore. Like look at what's happening with Chat GPT, right? Companies are just going to be hiring people that understand how chatbots work, like how Chat GPT work. That's not you don't have to learn how to code a chatbot yourself. You just now need to know how to work with it. So just exposing yourself to different tools and technologies out there. And I think that, to tell you the truth, a lot of the younger folks that are now coming into the corporate space are what we call digital natives to begin with. I mean, at at the age of 14 or 15, I was not introduced to Facebook or to, TikTok and to all these, like, Instagram and all these different social media platforms. You're already essentially in the scene. You're already in there. You probably know technology better than most, people out there do, right? So it's just I think that's a pretty transferable skill. You could take what you already know and look at what the corporate world is using, which is spreadsheets. I'm just kidding. That's one that's one big part of it. Many corporations are literally run on Google Sheets. Those types of tools that are used all of the time. You just want to get used to using them. I don't think it would take you very long to learn what they are, but just familiarity with those is definitely a good thing to get started.
Brilliant. And lastly, I want to obviously we are a community. We're building and kicking off this initiative as well in Women in Tech in Dorset. But a lot of it is the soul of it is around community. And I found that message with your friend is incredible, and I think that we kind of connect with that very deeply. I was wondering whether, in your mind, what is the value of these communities and what can they add as an experience for women in tech?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, I was lucky that I had, my sister, my best friend, actually both in tech, and we supported each other throughout this journey, right? For the last 27 years, we've been talking about tech and kids all in one sentence, and in one breath. It's just a norm for us, right? So I personally didn't need an outside community to help grow, as I was going through that journey. But I know that not everybody is as lucky, right? It's just circumstantial that I was able to find that community in my own home and in my own friendships. But for those that are looking for, some guidance, some support, in their journey, I think these communities provide just that. And they also provide examples to young women that, look, there are other women who are already there. So you can do it as well, right? So there's that support, guidance, mentorship, but an example, I think, is the biggest thing. We need to see more examples of women in, positions of power, as decision makers within organizations, to really motivate um, younger women coming into the corporate world, uh, to have that North Star in front of them.
Absolutely. I think it is incredibly important because you cannot be what you cannot see is the is the
Exactly.
idea.
It's exactly it. That's
Yeah,
a
and
very
I
true
think
statement.
also I think many of the times I remember being a part of a company going in and looking in and thinking, well, there's no one who looks like me, and I'm sure you've experienced the same.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, starting with the fact that it's all men in tech, right? I mean, that alone, of course, they don't look like me, unless I look like a man. It's possible. I don't know. But that's one thing, and then also women of color on top of that. So when you do see CEOs of companies, you don't see South Asian women most of the time. They're also typically, Caucasian, and they don't look like us, right? So there's always that fear or that imposter syndrome that, am I good enough, right? And that's actually my worry now for my daughters as well. And my younger daughter, she looks, so my husband's from Jamaica, right? So she has more of the the African sort of look to her, and the other one, Aaliyah, she looks more, a little bit more like me. And so the younger one always actually feels even worse that there is even less, she's more of a minority, even in her school, for example, than my older daughter, right? So there's always going to be that, and you have to teach your kids and tell yourself that everybody is different in some way or another. Some look different, but then there's other differences as well that are not so obvious. There's differences in our abilities, for example, right? And so why is that difference any less important than the way you look, right? So I think it's all about perspective. It's about the way you look at life in general. And you just have to open your eyes to see all of the various types of diversities that are out there, and not focus so much on just the way you look, right? Because like sometimes I actually look at myself, after when the video has been recorded for my speech, and I sometimes I don't identify with that person, right? I look at my video and I'm like, this that's who I am, and when you're talking, like right now, I don't see my picture as I'm speaking to you. Like I feel like a different person. It's just in your head. Um, I don't know how to explain it, but it's you have your certain imagination of who you really are, and then when you see it replayed back to you, it's completely different, right? And it's because your perception of you versus the way you see other people is very, very different. You don't look at yourself all the time. You look at other people all the time. So you're not even used to you being in front of the entire world, and speaking, and everybody listening to you. And so anyway, so I'm kind of rambling on, but stop me anytime, Seaman.
Never going to
Keep
happen.
it
You know
rambling.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but I have a real, yeah, it's a weird feeling that I get when I look at myself talk after it's been recorded. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we all share that, and
yeah.
it's very interesting watching back. And even if there is a recording of your voice, this is sometimes sounds a bit. I just want to go back. I was going to say on your point about diversity, and just one of the points about it's just not just about the way you look, but also
Mm.
about perspective. It's just so much, such an important point there. I think also, I was wondering if you have some advice for the community here as well as, the wider community, for us to be aware of those things, about that perspective, some of those things that might help us in becoming better colleagues, better, creating those better working environment for each other.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that it's we all tend to make friends with people that we can relate to most of the time, right? So women will, you'll see that in conferences, for example, you'll see all the women sort of congregate on one side, and the men sort of go in their own direction. And similar types of women will start to congregate within. So all these subgroups start to form, and you start to just reinforce your idea of who you are by engaging with people that look and act like you. And I think in order to truly embrace diversity, you have to break out of that shell, right? You have to force yourself to be in uncomfortable situations where you don't really connect at any level, at least on the surface, with the person that that is in front of you, but you force yourself to just put your hand up once again, right? It's that idea of, hey, I am going to do this. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. I may regret it completely, but maybe I learned something. Maybe we will be able to connect at a level that is beyond the superficial, right? And I think that that's what I've at least tried to do now, is to come out of that shell. Like, for example, on LinkedIn or other social media networks, I will reach out to people that I'm not comfortable talking to on purpose, just so that I can develop that muscle of becoming comfortable with diversity and with people that are not like me, right? So I think that that's it. It's diversity starts with the grassroots, right? So you have to, each individual within the community needs to become open towards diversity in order for diversity to actually embed itself and take hold in society, right? So you have to let each person open themselves up to some degree, and we have to teach that to our kids. We have to promote that and encourage that within organizations. There's an organization that I know recently, one of the system integrators that we're working with, that actually has this um, uh, actually internalized within their processes. So they have this weekly, I forget what they call it. It's like they randomly connect you to a person within your company, and you just have to talk to them for 30 minutes.
Brilliant.
And you don't know who that you don't know who that person is going to be.
Yeah.
You just get connected. So it's a company of about 100 people, and every week the algorithm basically figures out who you're going to talk to,
It's like
right?
the
And
accidental run into the kitchen scenario, but in a virtual world.
in a virtual world, exactly, exactly. So I think that type of interaction needs to be promoted and encouraged within companies.
I think that's just such a beautiful thought, and I think we'll probably end on that. And I'm absolutely amazing talk, so inspiring as always. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you very much to all of our attendees as well. This recording will be available on YouTube, and I'll let you guys know when it's available. And as always, I can go on and on with Sana, and the chat will never finish. I would also encourage you guys to sign up to our mailing list on the website, womenintechdorset.co.uk. Also look at our events page, and we'll be bringing in more webinars and more in-person events. And the community will be as good as we make it. So I'm absolutely thrilled to what we can make it and what the future looks like. We have had a smashing start with Sana, and I will
Thank you
be
so much.
always grateful. So thank you very much to everyone, and incredible, and my all my gratitude to you, Sana, for your time
Oh,
and
no,
all of
thank
you.
you so much.
All
Thank
right,
you for being such a great audience, and thank you again for bringing me into this,
all right,
Seaman.
brilliant.
Really appreciate it. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.